Every Sunday at noon, I host a Sprout Cafe with people from all over the world that basically come on the call and practice speaking their Swedish. This is part of a much larger program where we offer classes every single day for people that are looking to get some extra training in with their Swedish. And a few weeks ago, we had the theme of food. So we basically discussed the theme of food for an entire hour, and it made me realize that Sweden is a country that has a lot of strange foods that a lot of people have never had before moving here. So in this video, I'm going to discuss some of the foods we talked about in our recent Sprout Cafe. And if you are Swedish, maybe you haven't even realized that some of these foods for foreigners are really quite strange. The first food I want to talk about is Swedish pizza. Swedish pizza is unlike many other pizzas around the world, and a lot of the Swedish pizzas I personally love. I know when my mom came to visit me in Sweden one time, we went to a Swedish pizza place and she had a kebab pizza. She absolutely loved it. And ever since then, whenever getting a pizza in Sweden, she didn't want to go to an Italian pizza place. She always wanted to go to a Swedish pizza place and get kebab pizza. Also, Swedish people tend to put special sauces on their pizza, like béarnaise sauce, I love, on like a black and white with some oxfilé. I've also seen when Swedish people sometimes make pizza at home, I've seen people make pizza on knäckebröd. I've seen them make pizza on like taco shells. So a lot of interesting things when it comes to pizza. And I've also seen when they take a pizza out of the oven that they cut the pizza with scissors. I had never seen this in the US, but it is surprisingly effective, and Swedish pizzas tend to have very thin crust. Now, where I tend to draw the line in terms of Swedish pizzas that I like, there is a pizza called banana curry pizza where they put banana on the pizza. I gotta say, this is not my thing, but a lot of Swedish people are passionate about this pizza and think that banana on pizza is good, but for anyone outside of Sweden, I've never heard of anyone actually enjoying this. One of my personal favorite pizzas that I've never had before moving to Sweden is called löjrom pizza, where you basically have this like caviar sort of topping on the pizza, oftentimes with like sour cream, chives, onions. It's a really good combination. If you're in Sweden and you want to try my favorite pizza, definitely give that one a shot. While we're on the topic of more fishy types of foods, there's a lot of fishy types of foods that I'm not a huge fan of in Sweden, like Kalles caviar, for example, that people will put on like their breakfast sandwiches with eggs or whatever. I've tried this a few times in other previous videos on my channel. This is definitely a weird Swedish thing that I've only seen in Sweden. Another fishy thing could be like fish balls. Personally, I've never had this, but I've talked to Swedish people that say they would have fish balls at lunch as a kid. And I don't know, that doesn't sound too bad. Maybe something I need to try, actually. There's also this dish that people normally have as part of the Christmas table around Christmas time called Jonssons frestelse, which is kind of like roasted potatoes, sort of like French fries, but then they put anchovies in this sauce that's mixed in with the potatoes, and I actually really like this. And on the topic of fishy foods, there's one food that I didn't really like when I first moved to Sweden, and this was the Baltic herring, or sill, as you say in Swedish. But over my time of being in Sweden for a longer period, it's one of those acquired tastes that I've learned to appreciate more and more. But then you have the absolute extreme version of this that they eat in the north of Sweden as a delicacy, and this is the fermented Baltic herring known as surströmming. And I have tried this once on my channel. It is known as one of the smelliest foods in the entire world, and even despite trying to eat this in a way, the traditional way, with the thin breads and the potato and sour cream and onions and all this stuff, trying to mask this very potent smell, I just couldn't wrap my head around why people like this. So this is definitely one of the weirdest Swedish foods in my opinion. Another Swedish food that is weird for me as an American that I have tried on this channel multiple times is salty licorice. As an American, my idea of licorice was like red vines, this red, and I would never really eat it that much in America. It kind of tastes like high fructose corn syrup. And then there's also black licorice, although it's less common. But in Sweden, they'll eat black licorice, which is salty. And this is a very special taste. For I think most foreigners that aren't from sort of Scandinavian or Nordic countries, this is really something that we're not used to. And there's different levels of saltiness. For example, you have stuff that is just a little salty, and that is a bit of an acquired taste, something that I don't mind. Then you have a step up from that, like Ljungerol, much, much saltier. And this is one of those things where if you have a Swedish person that likes this and they put a bunch of this in your candy bag when you're buying candy at the store, the salt just gets everywhere and ruins all the other candy, in my opinion. But then if you want to go really extreme, I don't know anyone that actually likes this. It seems like it's just extra salty for the sake of being extra salty. There's this thing called svenskt jävlar. I've tried this a few times, and if you do like this, let me know in the comments section, because this is like a little bit extreme. But yeah, salty licorice, definitely I put that in the weird Swedish food category. The next weird Swedish food I actually think can be kind of good, and this is called a smörgåstårta. Or in English, you could say, I guess, sandwich cake. They have tons of different types of sandwich cakes. And I'm actually not even 100% sure what's in it, but I think it's like a lot of mayonnaise and cream and dill. And sometimes you'll have fish or different meats that you put inside. I've never actually made one myself, but I really like the ones where you have the shrimp on top. Again, a very fishy thing. You're starting to see this fishy theme of Scandinavian food, but I've never heard of another country in the world that has a sandwich cake. So if you are from another country and you have something similar to this, I'd be very curious to hear about it. But in my opinion, this seems like something that is uniquely Scandinavian, a little bit weird, but also something that I kind of like. And the last food I want to mention in this video is the fact that, well, let's just say Swedish people have a tendency to steal food from other places and make it their own and put their own touch on it. And as someone that has grown up in the United States, we always had very good, authentic Mexican food in a lot of different areas where I was from. So coming to Sweden, it was interesting coming and having Swedish tacos. Swedes definitely put their own spin on Swedish tacos, and pretty much any grocery store you go to in Sweden, they have a taco section in the grocery store. You get the taco krydda, you get the taco chips, and there's this tradition in Sweden called Taco Friday, where everyone has a Swedish taco night on a Friday. Where I come from, we always called it Taco Tuesday, which I think makes a little bit more sense because you have the alliteration of the two T words, Taco Friday. I mean, I'm not going to complain because I like tacos. The only reason I would complain is if I post a picture of me eating tacos and it's not a Friday and Swedish people give me crap saying that I can only eat the tacos on a Friday. In my opinion, I think we should be able to eat tacos whenever we want, multiple times a week. That's totally fine. But the one weird thing about Swedish tacos for me is that cucumber is a common ingredient that people put on Swedish tacos. I have never seen a Mexican person put cucumber on a taco before, and I tend to call cucumbers like Swedish jalapenos because not a lot of Swedish people like super spicy food. And another food that Swedish people don't typically like as much is cilantro, or coriander as it is known in Swedish. And there's actually a specific gene that's more common in Scandinavia where coriander has a soapy, not desirable taste. And this was very interesting because I was traveling with my parents and some of my parents' friends this past summer in Portugal, and my parents' friends, they did not like coriander. And I asked, what is your last name by chance? And they said their last name was Mattsson. And I said, okay, this totally makes sense. You have some Scandinavian heritage. You probably have this gene where you don't like coriander because your last name is Mattsson. It started to click for me. I definitely noticed a difference that there are a lot more people in Scandinavia that don't like coriander compared to where I'm from in the US. And I've never met a Mexican person that doesn't like cilantro. I'm sure they're out there. I just haven't met one before. But with that, guys, those were some of the weirdest foods that people eat in Sweden. If you feel like I missed any weird foods that people eat here in Sweden, let me know in the comments section, and I'm gonna be very curious to read what you guys have to say. With that said, thanks for watching this one, and see you in another one.